Hello people and hello my Chili Con Carnage crew. It's time to go into another list for a reaction this time. We are going to broaden our horizons away from Spin's pretty average 12 worst metal albums. This time we're going to be checking out a link on the website Loudwire, who have produced an album from every Big Four grunge album ranked from worst to best, and the Big Four for the grunge scene include, of course, Nirvana, Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden. So, unfortunately, no Stone Temple Pilots there. I guess that's fair to say. Look, they were more a bit alt than grunge, although the first album, Core, is pretty much a carbon copy of the grunge scene. But the other side, they are considered the Big Four. The Big Four originated with thrash metal, Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, of course, and Megadeth, the grunge Big Four, here we go. So, without further ado, let's check this shit out right now, okay? Alright, now I swear, if Pearl Jam's most recent album isn't the last on the list, I am just gonna be like, this list is fucked. Alright. Going into this, let's keep on going. Come on now. Riot Act. There's only 26 albums. Here we go. I'll try and get through these as fast as possible. Look, Riot Act, yeah, quite possibly it is pretty average at best. Let's see. Crowd Crush in 2000, 9/11 a year later. I don't really have say anything truly negative. It wasn't a great album. It was a pretty average album from Pearl Jam, and I have a feeling the bottom half of this list is going to be a lot of Pearl Jam in there. The song Save You and is a good song. I Am Mine, still good, and You Are. So I did enjoy a few of the tracks, but there is still, it's a 15-track album. Sorry, just quickly looking over this. That's about an hour-long album, and it is pretty average. I still say, though, their most recent one, Gigaton, should have made this bottom of the list. I did not like that album. But hey, that's my list if I was rating it. So let's see, Riot Act, yeah, okay. As I said, look, it looks like Pearl Jam is going to make the bottom of the list a lot here. I can never pronounce this. Binaural. But anyway, you're gonna laugh enough. Now, of course, that's from the audio levels being on two sides. So yeah, look, it was another average album once again. There were some good tracks from the guys over there on that album. At least I thought so. But on the whole, it was a pretty average album. I think around about this time they released a live album, like Live in New York City or something, a DVD I had bought, and yeah, I liked it. It did have a lot of the songs from that album, but at the same time, I don't know. Just quickly looking over this, so we had like God's Icebreaker Fall. Yeah, I didn't mind that. Evacuation wasn't bad. Nothing As It Seems, though, is one of my favourite songs by Pearl Jam. But again, it's another long one. Sleight of Hand, yeah, not bad. It was a bit under an hour still. This is interesting. Ultra Mega OK at number 24. It's raw, and in the infancy, yeah, this is like their first true album. I think they released a couple of EPs before this. Ultra Mega OK was their first album. I would not rate it so low on this list, though, Flower is good, yeah. All Your Lies, Move for Trouble, yeah, okay. But still, the album had a lot of bangers on there. I don't know about rating it so low, but I guess if you just made there were 7 albums by Pearl Jam, it would just look a bit favoritism there. I'm just actually going over this list of the songs. You know what? There might be a point there. Just going over the set list, besides Flower, is there anything of significance? All Your Lies? I don't think I've listened to this album in a while. Hell, even the count's pretty low. You know what? They might have a point there. I will have to go back to it. It's been a long time since I've listened to Ultra Mega OK, so maybe there's a point to why it is so high. This one, the Avocado Album. I love this album. But it's also because it was the first album by Pearl Jam that was released around the time that I was getting into Pearl Jam. So, there was the first album I went out and bought when it was released, and I really enjoyed this album, There was a lot of fantastic tracks, but again, I guess if it's the album that you grew up listening to, you might have, grew up listening to Riot Act. Maybe that was your favourite one. But for me, it was the Avocado album, and there were a lot of tracks I just have fond memories of listening to on that, There was, of course, Worldwide Suicide, Life Wasted, Mark in the Sand, but other songs as well, which I thought were really good, was like Army Reserve, Gone, Unemployable to a degree, yeah, Big Wave. There were a fair few tracks on that album that were just pretty decent jam tracks there. And I thought it was a solid album, I guess, given the list, it's got to sit somewhere there. So, look, I wouldn't disagree with it. Rain of Fog gets a lot of... Yeah, okay. Rain of Fog was... As far as Alice in Chains' discography, it is the weakest album, so there's no argument there. Where it sits, yeah, I'd probably agree. It's a deceptively average album. Unfortunately, they've been on a downward slope. I hope to see Alice in Chains release a new album soon. That would be good. Black Gives Way to Blue is a fantastic album, and you know what? I would probably rate it mid to high tier, but we'll have to see how this list goes. That's just my ranking if I was doing it. Rain of Fog, still good, It's not a bad album, it's just a bit of a letdown, an average album, I suppose you could say. Alongside Soundgarden's album, which they've rated here at number 21, King Animal is one of those albums I remember listening to at the time and going, oh damn, that was pretty sweet. That was the first album they recorded when Soundgarden got back together, Chris Cornell and the whole band, and it was a pretty solid album, but at the same time, it was not one that you're going to be racing back to. Besides the opening tracks, I couldn't recall any of the tracks, So King Animal kind of fell wayside, and yeah, I guess for that reason, it's been away too long. Yeah, that opening track is fantastic. Been away too long. Yeah, I love that track. Fantastic opener. Unfortunately, did not really... They failed to follow it up in the rest of their songs. And it was a pretty long album as well, from memory. I think it was a bit over an hour, at least with the bonus tracks. But anyway, so number 21, Soundgarden, King Animal. We keep going on. No Code, Pearl Jam. Look, I love a lot of Pearl Jam's albums here when they are... that mid-90s era, which a lot of people probably refer to as the lull. But there's a fair few tracks on there that are absolute bangers, and No Code is one of them, Yeah, they slowed it down, and they played away from their grunge roots, but the album as a whole, yeah, it's pretty average. Hail Hell, I would probably rate that a bit... I would rate this lower than, say, Avocado, in my opinion. Look, there's some great tracks, Off He Goes, for example, Mankind, Hail Hell, and stuff like that. But I think No Code sits lower, to me, than Avocado. And it's got that weird album cover, like the collage of photographs here of everything, and it's just a really weird album cover as well, looking at it. Scattered. Kind of like the ideas of this album, I suppose you could say. This one, really... I was listening to this one not too long ago, and this is just before they really got into the groove, I guess you could say. They were really raw still, unpolished, but there's a lot of really good energy within the band, they're hungry for it and all that stuff. Interesting songs when you get down to it. I just can't believe, I just saw the next album, I just can't believe it sits where it does in the list. I did for example, Gun is an interesting song. It's pretty average in hindsight, but the song itself, yeah, it's funny. It's a funny song to me. And Louder Than Love had some really good songs, Ugly Truth, Hands All Over, as I said, Gun, Get on the Snake, Fall on Kevin's Mum. That's a weird track as well. They're definitely a band still full of youth, and they got the dumb songs in there. The follow-up album about that one is going to be a more refined look, but of course it'll be much higher in the list as well. But I disagree that it sits lower than the next album here, which of course is Gigaton. Why does it sit so high in this list? This should be down the bottom. For me, this is the worst album out of all the big fours. It was so weak. Terrible. For me, anyway. Others may remember. You might remember this more fondly than I do. I have not gone back to it since it came out. It is just so terrible. this weird, like, Pearl Jam's not one to shy away and do what they want to a degree. You know, they changed it up a lot from their first 3 albums to where they were in the 90s with the ones just before, and even to now. And it shows a band that's evolving. I mean, hell, out of all these bands, this is the only one that's still around. So that kind of says something, doesn't it? But this album should be much, much lower on the list. It's so average. So I disagree with this one being so high. The next one, yeah, Lightning Bolt, again, very average album. As I said, I figured a lot of Pearl Jam's albums were going to be at the bottom, also because they've released the most albums out of the big 4. So, yeah, Lightning Bolt, once again, is another average album, just a bunch of average songs on the mix. It was still much better than Gigaton, though. But it was one that I listened to and just never really returned to. It never caught my attention. It was, I guess, too poppy, too, I don't know. It was just never a really good album to me. Never caught my attention. Then Them Bones, far out. No. Alice in Chains, The Devil Put Dinosaurs here. Again, it's a pretty solid album. I would not say Alice in Chains has released any bad albums. They've just released some average albums at worst. And The Devil Put Dinosaurs here is one of those ones that can really hit you with a few of the songs, but on the flip side, it's kind of, it does have some boring, drudging songs, but, it does have some really good ones. Pretty Darn Hollow, Stone. I mean, shit, Stone is such a good track. Voices. But then it just drops away after that. Like, that's the first 4 tracks. That is the first 4 tracks. And The Devil Put Dinosaurs here, the self-titled track. And then after that, it's, Low Ceiling and Lab Monkey and Breath on a Window. Do you remember any of these tracks? Phantom Limb was cool. That one, I'm trying to remember. It had a guest appearance from someone, maybe I'm getting confused. No, sorry, I'm probably thinking of the song Phantom by Deftones, which I'm pretty sure had Jerry Cantrell in it. I might be getting very confused here. But yes, it's still not a great album. We're still talking 4 songs overall on an album, and the rest is pretty average. So yeah, I agree. It should sit here roughly. Backspace number 15. Yeah, look, not going to disagree with that. That's a pretty good ranking for that one. That was a decent album. That was, to me, no, Backspace was good. I remember this is probably the last album I bought from Pearl Jam as well. But to me, and I'm going to say something controversial here, Avocado was the last good album that Pearl Jam put out. Backspace, it was very close, but Avocado to me was the last good album that they have put out. Yeah, Backspace was pretty damn good. It was a good effort here. But after everything since Backspace has just been pretty shit. So, yeah, The Fixer, Supersonic, Get Me, yeah, would you say? Just Breathing Amongst the Waves, yeah, some softer cuts, of course, but decent tracks indeed. We keep going. Oh, look at those ads. Fantastic. Yield. Pearl Jam's Yield. I love this album. I do. It's like a road trip album. Like, even the picture on the cover. It's just that album that you put on and you drive away to. Sorry, I should move up a bit. I will probably crop this out a little bit so you're not going to see what I've been seeing here on the bottom. I just scroll a bit too fast and I just click past it. So, Pearl Jam's Yield, really sick album there. Given to Fly, of course, Wish List, The Colour Red, Push Me, Pull Me. Pretty good tracks there. So, it's one of those albums I like to put on when I'm going for a very long drive and just listen to. But it's not a very prominent album to a degree. So, yeah, look, I'd rate it here. It's a very decent album. It's like that transition period or something. Brainerd J, is high energy and faithful, whatever. But yeah, Given the Flight, Do the Evolution, of course. One of the best last tracks that they've ever put out. Wish List and all that. Push Me, Pull Me is like that weird little outro and all those yesterdays. Some good songs on there. Really love it. So we move on now. Nirvana's Bleach. Interesting, to say the least, to see it so low, but at the same time I can't disagree because, yes, there are some bangers coming up ahead. So the first Nirvana album as well hits at number 13 out of, 26, halfway down the list. So that is pretty impressive, of course, but Nirvana's discography is very small. And of course, with the amount of releases that they did, it's not really surprising to see it so high up. Bleachers, the band's first album, of course, and it is the very raw, refined, punkish to a degree sound. You know, the band is just doing a very basic job. Even I think recording of this cost like $800 or something. Doz would probably correct me here, but yeah, the recording was very short. You know, they already had the songs already down pat. You know, About a Girl, of course, best track on the album. But, you know, Buzz Cut and a few other songs on there, Love Creep, and a few others are fantastic songs. Can't disagree. For a first album, would you say it's the best? No, because there is another one on the list that's coming up. But it is freaking impressive. I mean, the technicality for one of the first albums coming up ahead. But anyway, yes, I would probably rate Bleach around this position. I'm sure Doz would disagree. Okay, and he would definitely agree seeing what is ahead of this. Black Gives Way to Blue. Seems like a controversial move to put that so high, but I agree. I think Black Gives Way to Blue is a fantastic comeback album. You know, released on the same day as Dirt as well, by the way. But I did a whole episode and segment on the Dirt album. We've done a retro review, as well as 30 facts about the album Dirt due to its 30th anniversary, which was only a couple of weeks ago now. So yeah, Black Gives Way to Blue features William DuVall, who's the new lead singer of Alice in Chains, and this was their comeback. Really, it was. You know, the band had been on hiatus for so many years, and they found a new singer, and they brought out this thing, and it was fantastic. It really is a solid album, start to finish, and it's kind of like a healing process for the whole band to come into this new era that they are now currently in. So, fantastic opening and start to the band. Unfortunately, the follow-up albums have not been very strong, but hopefully that changes with future. Who knows? I mean, I've seen Alice in Chains perform live. William DuVall is a really good singer. Damn, they picked a really good singer to front the band moving on forward. So, very good. Where will we go? Yeah, check my brain, of course. Last time I kind of look and view. Check my brain. Check my brain. So, moving in. Oh, okay. We're coming up to the top 10 nearly. And we're going to cap it off here with Alice in Chains' self-titled album, Alice in Chains, or Tripod as some of the fans would call it. The Dog. The Dog. Alice in Chains' final studio album with Lane Staley, the band's self-titled 1995 set, is the sonic terminus before an unquenchable chasm. In retrospect, it's also a bit of a musical rebirth after their initial grunge success. Yes, it was a very different album compared to Dirt. More, you could almost say it's kind of groove metal to a degree. Heaven Beside You. Oh, God, Heaven Beside You. And what's the other song? And Over Now. Over Now is a fantastic fucking song from that album. I love it. As well as like Sludge Factory. Those couple of songs, Frogs, are really good albums, but it does get overshadowed, you know, by a lot of the other ones. Grind, of course. But yeah, look, Heaven Beside You is such a good one. I love Sludge Factory. The first time I heard it, amazing. But it's kind of one of those albums that as an Alice in Chains fan, you kind of got 3 albums to choose from if you're ignoring the last 3 that they put out. And out of those first 3, you're going to ignore this one. And you can see why. Hell, they put this higher on the list compared to others. So, yeah, I can understand that. But regardless, here we are, Alice in Chains. We're going to hit the top 10. Sorry. What do you reckon they'll be? What do you reckon it's going? What would your list be anyway? Would you rate something higher, different? Hey, who knows? If you're enjoying this content as well, don't forget to like this video and hell, subscribe. This is a small channel. Every subscription helps with us. So, yay! Thank you very much for subbing to us. Please. Here we go with the next one coming in. And down on the upside, I forgot about this album. To put it here is a pretty big call. I remember it being long and a lot of parts bland. So I might be ruffling some feathers when I say that. You know, there are some cool songs, some very odd songs. You know, Pretty Noose, of course. Blow Up the Outside World. But at the same time, Blow Up the Outside World is a very slow and dreary song. And yes, it's how it's meant to sound. But, the rest of the album I never really enjoyed. Tide Cold was funny. It was odd. It was short. And right up in your face about a controversial baseball player. Yeah, sorry American fans, but for all he did for the sport, he also was a very controversial player from what I have heard, and maybe that's of the time, but still doesn't change the fact. But anyway, that side, there are still some pretty, I mean, look, I just, this is not the album that I come back to. If anything, Down on the Upside to me is a worse album than Animal Kingdom. That's just me saying that. I would probably, look, if I was ranking these albums from worst to best, King Animal. King Animal would probably be higher than Down on the Upside. That's just my opinion. Again, I don't think it should be ranked so high. I would actually put this Soundgarden album much higher, probably mid-tier, 14, 15, 16 area. So, yeah, alright, it sits where it sits. Vitalogy. Yep, moving into number 9 here, Pearl Jam's Vitalogy, and yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. That's a pretty decent position for this album. It's a very good album, Vitalogy. Probably the last of the, real good, solid albums from Pearl Jam anyway, but they did what they did on that. So, you can argue between the first 2 albums. We know which one's going to win out of those 2. But, Vitalogy is that kind of like that last album before it transitions and goes into the change up and the pace change and everything else. I mean, how the scene was changing, the band's evolving. Vitalogy is that kind of step between. And, fantastic songs like Spin the Black Circle, Not For You, and Immortality, as well, of course, Better Man, Cautery, and Nothing Man. Absolutely incredible tracks. Now I think about it, that album had some very solid songs, but then there was like weird shit in there. I think it was Bedbugs or something like that. I can't remember the name. It was one of the last tracks off there. Just a weird, shitty fucking song on there. Anyway, it's still a bloody solid album, this one. So yes, I would agree with that one. Moving up to the next one, number 8, Facelift. Even as an Alice in Chains fan, I would rate it here. Facelift in hindsight, I mean, at the time when it came out, it was not a strong album. In fact, it failed to sell I think it sold pretty dismally. It ended up touring with people like Slayer and stuff like that, and that changed the whole band's trajectory moving forward, which is, well, I guess it is what it is now. But Facelift is like one of those albums that people look back in time and started going, damn, this is actually a really good album. Man in the Box, for example. Man in the Box, sorry. Fantastic one. And there is a lot on this that just takes place. As I said, I have seen Alice in Chains live, and I remember they just opened up with like Bleed the Freak. No, sorry, it was Sea of Sorrow. And it was just, that first opening notes, dun, 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 absolutely incredible opener. It was overcast, I don't know, something about the whole thing, it just fit. And Facelift has some incredible tracks, of course. We Die Young, Man in the Box, as I just said. Love, Hate, Love, people, it depends how you feel about that song, I guess. Bleed the Freak, Sea of Sorrow, I can't remember. Absolutely great first album. Again, still not the best first album out from these big 4, but that will come up later on, guarantee. Probably be the next one. But a solid opener from these guys. They had a really cool album, and it's such a weird album cover as well. I remember back in the day going, what the fuck is this? It definitely struck me as an odd album cover. So, number 7, what do you reckon it's going to be? Here we go. I'm going to call it, oh, it's not what I thought it was. Interesting. Soundgarden's Bad Motor Finger. Yeah, it's a good album. Definitely. There is not much wrong with this album. Outshine, Rusty Cage, Jesus Christ Pose, all the big songs, of course, from that album. Fantastic album, of course, Slaves and Bulldozers. Yes, that is an overlooked song from the album here. I just saw a note there. And there are a fair few tracks, I think they'll come up soon on the next album here. But yeah, Slaves and Bulldozers in particular, it's one of those underrated tracks. If you have only listened to the Best Of by Soundgarden, you got to listen to Slaves and Bulldozers, because that thing gets left off a lot of lists, and it's a bit of a bit of an issue. Room 1,000 Years Wide. I remember the first time hearing that track and just going, how do you can't even picture that, measuring a room by time instead of obviously the metric for distance. It's such a unique title. And I don't know. Every time I look at the album and I look at that title, it always bugs me. The thought process behind that. I mean, hell, 1,000 years wide, traveling at what speed? You could. It's an interesting concept piece, a thought process, I guess, behind it. And a very good song. I love that one. Mine Right, Drone Flies. Yeah, not bad. Yeah. But yeah, Bad Motorfinger would definitely sit it at this location. Coming up next, what do we got? This has got to be... we'll see. Ooh, Nirvana fans cry. In Utero, because I say that because a lot of Nirvana fans actually count In Utero as better than the other album that'll be probably number 2 on this list. I wonder what could be their number 1. I'm going to guess it'll be number 2, just to see. Alright, anyway, In Utero, many people say is better than Smells Like Teen Spirit. In Utero, which is more raw, refined, and back to roots basic, I guess you could say. But it's the album I don't go back to too often, to be honest. It's got those weird cracks in the background now. I'm looking at the photo. It's kind of like Dirt's cover to a degree, except with the weird mannequin with wings. In Utero, you know what? I don't listen to a lot of In Utero, but I do love it every time I listen to it. I've got to listen to a lot more of In Utero. It's definitely an album that gets overshadowed by a lot of other artists on this list here. But anyway, In Utero, sure, yeah, I'd probably rate it here too. It does have some fantastic songs, of course, Heart-Shaped Box and all the rest of that. But I think they kind of got it perfect here. Would I say it's better than their upcoming album? Well, that's for you to decide, I guess. It depends on how you like it. Anyway, moving along. Yes. Pearl Jam's Versus. Very good album. Again, people would probably make the argument that this one is better than their other one, but I would say you are wrong. Yeah, Go, Daughter, Animal, Dissident, Glorified Jesus. It's still a relevant song, but I just don't like the overall feel of it. It just sounds so juvenile. Same with Gun from Soundgarden's album before. Yeah, glorified version of a pellet gun. Yeah, okay, I get what you're singing about, but it just sounds so tacky. I don't know. It always... Yeah, elderly woman behind a counter in a small town. I know the live album that I was talking about from Pearl Jam, and now time for our longest title in the Pearl Jam catalog, elderly woman behind a counter in a small town. The whole crowd's erupting by the time he said elderly woman. Yes, and a lot of fans, of course, love that. Rear View Mirror, fuck, what a track. Yup, there is hardly a faulty track here, except for the freaking track I cannot recall, because every time I freaking skip that track. Leash might be thinking of, or Creedy Stomp, I'm pretty sure. It's a weird track, I can't remember it now. Anyway, very good album. Daughter, of course. So, moving along, what's going to be the next one up here? We're hitting top 4 now. So, I called it at number 2. I was wrong, baby. I was wrong. He's going to get a lot of He's going to get a lot of hate, whoever made this list. Nirvana fans are already pissed. I'm going to have to edit that as well. So, Game Changer. Yeah, of course. We know the story. Everyone knows Nirvana's Nevermind. I'm a bit surprised to see it at number 4. I thought it'd be at least top 3 material. Maybe he's doing this for the controversy. I don't know. I don't care. It's a really good album. There is no bad tracks on this. One of those albums that have just... stayed the test of time. And I remember Doz actually showed me a version of the album. I think it's the Devonshire mix. I could be wrong there, which is a bit more of a rough around the edges type of sound. And it's like, for the fans that loved the In Utero, where it's more raw and, because of what they only did 3 takes for each song, and they chose the best take, I think, out of it. For the more, and then obviously Nevermind was much more polished, perfect, and everything like that, which is a stark comparison compared to Bleach, of course. Well, for the fans who thought Nevermind was too polished and perfect and studio orientated, you can check out the Devonshire mix, and I think that's a perfect blend between that in utero style of approach and the Nevermind songs that, of course, that are so big and famous and fucking amazing. I mean, hell, Come As You Are, come on now. Smells Like Teen Spirit, the song that everyone learns on guitar the first time around. You know, it's like our version of Smoke on the Water. You know, we always learn those four power chords. And according to Dawes, it is best to play Smells Like Teen Spirit on an upstroke, not a downstroke, because obviously that's how it is when he plays it live. I'm pretty sure you can watch a few versions and see him doing an upstroke to start Come As You Are. Come As You Are, incorrect. Smells Like Teen Spirit. And yeah, that's an interesting little tidbit. Also, of course, Come As You Are, which has the riff borrowed from Killing Joke's song 80s, which I do recommend you check out the band Killing Joke, and particularly that song 80s, but really their first album, Killing Joke's self-titled album, who they did take a lot of influences from. Nirvana brought a lot of influences across the board from that, and yeah, really check out that raw sound from Killing Joke. Love that band, love it. How can you forget all of this? Lithium, Bloom, and all the rest. So, of course, going on to the top three, I'm going to say Pearl Jam's next. Oh, I'm wrong. Soundgarden's Super Unknown. This is a freaking good album. Yes, I would rate it as the best one they've ever done. Yes, Let Me Drown, of course. What can I say about this? I remember when I finally did this album, when I finally listened to it, I should say, absolutely blown away. Because I think the first album that I had by them was... I'm trying to remember if I bought it or not. I definitely didn't buy it. I borrowed it from the library. Don't worry, I didn't download that thing. It was Louder Than Love was the first album I had. Then I had like a best of. And I followed it up with a live album. I'm pretty sure live on... No, it wasn't live on i5. Anyway, came across Super Unknown and Game Changer. I think it was like the last album I listened to before King Animal. Let Me Drown, My Wave. Shit. Fell on Black Days. Malman, Super Unknown. Head Down, Black Hole Sun, of course. The song that everyone regards as the death notes, I should say, of the grunge movement. You know, when they released that song, apparently the whole grunge scene died. Spoon Man, fuck, great song. The Day I Tried to Live. Kickstand. 4th of July is another song. I really love that song. And shit, you know, there's some really... My Wave is one of my favourite songs by Soundgarden. That track is amazing. Dun-dun-dun. Yeah, anyway. So, yes, I reckon he's going to rate Pearl Jam number 1 then. No, he won't. He'll do Alice in Chains number 1. Pearl Jam's going to be number 2. Yep. So, as far as debut albums go, this is the best debut album. The one I was teasing from earlier. 10 is... I've seen someone... The first thing that just came to my mind... I've seen someone describe 10 as the best thing that Pearl Jam's ever done, and everything else was a downhill slope. They have never come anywhere near the same heights that they had with 10. And sadly, when you look back at it, that's very true. It's a sad thought. Pearl Jam is like a few other bands who have never overcome their first album. Another one I can think of straight off the bat is Weezer, but they're not on this list. So yes, 10 is fucking fantastic. I've played that album so many times, and I love it. You know, how can you not love this album from start to finish? It is a perfect album. There is not a dead note on this thing. I mean, opening with the little bass line, little jam thing, and then even flow, of course, Alive, Why Go, Black Jeremy, I think that's the only video clip they ever recorded, or at least they ever did for a long time. And again, that was a video clip that was directed by, I forget the name of the director, but he did Alice in Chains video clip for... Oh my god, was it Them Bones? I think it was Them Bones. Can't recall, but if you watch the 30 Facts About Dirt on the 30th anniversary, you'll find out. So I implore you to not hear my forgetful memory on this. Instead, check out that video. But yes, of course, 10. Who could forget Oceans? You know, that's a very cool chill track. Garden, Deep, and Release. Great way to close out an album that is just purely fantastic. It's with the soft and somber Release, nearly 10 minutes long, and it's just a great, closing track. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, absolutely incredible. Circumstances of Pearl Jam's birth are unfortunate, but sometimes out of difficult situations come fantastic opportunities. So if you don't know the history behind it, probably have a look at the name Andrew Wood and see the history that is Pearl Jam. Basically, they came from the guitarist came from another band. And also worked with, Andrew Wood was the guitarist from Mother Love Bone, who died back in 1990, I think it was, 91. And they did an album, Hunger Strike. No, wait, was that the song? Oh man, I'm having a Temple of the Dog. Absolute mind blank there. Hunger Strike. Temple of the Dog was the band, the supergroup in hindsight that it became. They did do it. I'm pretty sure they did a an anniversary thing. But basically, it is most of the band. It's pretty much Pearl Jam with Chris Cornell. So Say Hello to Heaven of Hunger Strike, absolute incredible tracks. That Reach Down, of course. But yeah, it was just a in memoriam album for Andrew Wood. Gone too soon. Mother Love Bone. Rest in peace, brother. Rock in peace, I should say. So we get to the number 1 album, Alice in Chains' Dirt. Shit, I wonder if that's because of the 30th anniversary recently, eh? No, it's because it's a fucking good album. Dirt is fundamentally one of the... I would rate it as number 1. If I was ranking every single one of these albums as well, Dirt would be number 1 for me. I've already given my retro review on that one, so I won't go into it too deep. You can go check out my retro review and hear my thoughts for 10 minutes in regards to that album. You can also hear on the retro review where I score it. Number 1, Alice in Chains' Dirt. That's where I would also sit that album on as far as this whole list goes. So, yeah, this list, not too bad. There were a few albums I thought that should have been ranked lower and higher, in particular Gigaton, but hey, I've wasted enough time talking about that trashy album. So, look, tell me your thoughts in regards to this. What did you think it was a good list? Did you hate the list? Hell, where would you sit some of these things? The better question, I guess, would be, which one would you rank number 1? Or do you agree with Alice in Chains' Dirt sitting atop as king of all the grunge albums? Hell, I think there's going to be a lot of Nirvana fanboys angrily commenting saying, no, it should be insert Nirvana album here. But I disagree. I think Alice in Chains is probably the better album band. I'm sure that there'll be many angry people commenting now. Not disagreeing with the whole, Nirvana's a great band, come on now, but I love Alice in Chains better. Sorry, guys. So, look, that's the list as far as this goes for the big 4 of the grunge. I feel disappointed that Stone Temple Pilots aren't part of the list or part of the big 4, but when you think about it, I guess it only kind of makes sense for these other bands that are on there. Of course, you can't get rid of Nirvana. Of course, you can't get rid of Pearl Jam. And, of course, you can't get rid of Soundgarden, and of course you can't get rid of Alice in Chains. So if you were to define it as the big 4, I keep using air quotations, but yeah, Stone Temple Pilots would be bumped from the big 4. I have wondered that actually a few times, and I guess because of their style of music and everything, it makes sense that they didn't make the cut. Still good albums. Shit, I wonder where they would sit if they were included in this. I don't know, but guess depends. I mean, Purple is a fucking fantastic album. Anyway, I digress. I am just absolutely sidetracked here right now. But for everyone out there, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of what is this? A reaction to the Big 4 grunge albums ranked from worst to best. So everyone out there, you have a great day and make sure you stay spicy.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Live Listen Erased. And if you have enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it with all your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our Chili Con Carnage crew so you can get notified for all the future videos that we put out, as we put out videos every Friday. Also, we are on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter over at Live Listen Erased, so make sure to tune in over there. And don't forget to like this video so that our manager can stay very happy.